because somebody who recovered from a terrible decision, Mr.
Mhm.
Cam Ward, decided to decided instead of going to the draft, he eventually, I guess, ended up just using it to. I'm assuming to try to get more NIL money, and he ended up going to Miami. Derek, this was something that we kind of hinted at when we put out our Cam Ward video, which, by the way, did some numbers. So if you're returning from that video, thank you. You're very welcome here. Subscribe, like the video. But Derek, what are your thoughts on Cam Ward transferring to Miami, and kind of reversing his decision from going to the draft?
Oh, dude. So this, to me, this was a no-brainer. I mean, for us, this was a no-brainer. And I think a lot of people in the comment section of that video, it was very interesting because there's a couple different perspectives people had. And the one that obviously I agree with, I'm assuming you agree with, is the one that happened. And Cam Ward making the decision to announce that he's going to the draft, which, by the way, didn't mention it when we talked about that. His video was hilarious. It was literally, "Hi, I'm Cam Ward. I'm announcing I'm going to the draft." Like, it was plain, simple, done, quick and easy. I respect it. I love Cam Ward. I think he's an exceptional player, college player, very fun to watch, and I want to see what he can do at a bigger school. But Tristan, with this was just a business decision that was horribly made. I mean, Cam Ward mentioned it in that video. All things taken into context here, he was probably a 5th or 6th round draft pick. Maybe best case scenario, late 4th.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a high risk that he could have been undrafted. I mean, we were super critical of that decision because not only just because it felt like he did need another year in college, and because by staying an extra year, I felt like the talent pool for next year's draft is not as deep as this one. I mean, you're talking, let's go from the top. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy. All
Jaden
5.
Daniels.
I forgot about Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, there's so many. That's what I'm saying. There's so many.
So in all 6 of those QBs could realistically go in the first 2 rounds. Any one of them could drop to round 3 or 4. And they have proven a lot more in college than you. Even though what he's done is really good and he's put a lot of good on tape, the depth of the quarterback position in this draft is substantial. It's just massive. So yeah, I think it was the right decision to go back to college, back to Miami, play for a big school, play against some big teams, play against some NFL caliber teams. That's the big thing for me, because this is a guy that I don't know if you agree with me to this extent, but this is a guy that if he looks really good this year in Miami, this is a guy that could potentially find himself in the first round of the draft. And it's not crazy to say that when you consider Baker Mayfield. He was a guy who, a year before he was drafted number 1 overall, was a guy that day 3 pick, luckily if he makes it to day 2. And he had one great year at Oklahoma, a really, really good year. And it propelled him to number 1 overall pick in a quarterback class in which I believe there were 5 first-round quarterbacks taken that year. So
Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and then Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Yep. So, and he, because of that performance, got propelled to the number 1 overall pick. This was absolutely the right move by Cam Ward. I think it was dumb to declare for the draft and then backpedal on that decision, because that's just something that I think NFL scouts are going to look at and, be critical of him of whether it's fair or not. It didn't make sense at the time. And I think we can both sit here and say, great decision by him to reverse that decision.
No, absolutely. And here's the thing. The biggest thing for me is not that Cam Ward is not talented, because Cam Ward he's got a skill set. And a lot of people, especially in that comment section, were like, oh, you think he doesn't have an NFL arm, like he's not ready, then why do you think he's going to be a good college quarterback? For me, Cam Ward reminds me a lot of kind of like a Braxton Miller, JT Barrett hybrid. And for you guys who don't know us, Ohio State fan, Tristan kind of doesn't have like a huge opinion on college football. Like he's not dedicated to one fan base. I mean, you like Ohio State, but not crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like we're sitting here being like, oh, he didn't come to Ohio State, like I hate him. That's not the point. The point is this. To me, Cam Ward has a skill set that is superior for college football. And you've seen many guys throughout the history of the NFL. These are guys who succeeded at a high level in college, but they get to the league and it's a completely different game. It's a completely different story. For me, Cam Ward is somebody who, again, now he's made his decision. He's going to Miami. He's somebody that can do really good things and really fun things at Miami. And this is another factor, too. College football is changing so much from this season to next season. You are now having a 12-team playoff. 12 teams. A lot of these major schools are losing a lot. Alabama just lost a ton of people. New head coach, with Nick Saban retiring, which, by the way, we reacted to live on the podcast. If you want to see that live reaction, that video's out. Anyway, so yeah, there's so much changing in the world of college football that's going to help Cam Ward even more at Miami. So, listen, is it crazy to say that in a 12-team playoff, Miami could make it? No, that's not crazy. If you get the right guy in there, and I think he is. What does this mean for his future? Do I think he is an NFL quarterback? I do not. I don't. I don't think Cam Ward is an NFL quarterback. I never did. But for him, this is setting his future up so much better. Because at a school the size of Miami, if he goes there and plays really well and everything goes right and they're able to sneak in a 12-team playoff, he can sign autographs for the rest of his life. Like you weren't doing that before. So, there's multiple things here. And I do think if he goes to the right team and he does develop and decision making gets better and all these things, he could be something in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be good or a starter, but there's plenty of college quarterbacks who come in and they're solid backups. Like that's just a thing that happens. Last thing I wanted to say on Cam Ward before we move on, a big part of this as well is what you mentioned. The quarterbacks in this draft class is deep. This draft class is very deep. And, I'm somebody who's very critical on quarterbacks being drafted. Like, I will nitpick and I will criticize. There's not a whole lot that you can really say with this class. Whereas next year, it's not as deep at the moment, right? You had some guys come back. Quinn Ewers came back. Carson Beck's going to be in that draft class. And there's some other guys, right? Shedeur Sanders. But as far as this draft class coming up, this NFL draft versus next year, if I'm Cam Ward, I want no part of this draft class. Like, I want absolutely no part of it. So there's nothing but good that can come out of this. He's now going to a big school. He's going to get a lot of money to be their quarterback. He's going to be on a bigger stage. And you know what? Hey, even if he flops, Tristan, even if he falls on his face, he's getting money from going to Miami. Like that, at the very least, that's what he's going to get. Versus if he comes into the NFL, he's a 5th-round pick, 6th-round pick, bounces around what? Practice squads? Like that's just what it is. So at the end of the day, this was the only decision he could make. And listen, I'm somebody who completely agrees with betting on yourself. And if that's a move that he originally was thinking when he declared for the draft, great. Awesome. I love it. Go do you. If you think you're that good, go ahead. But the business side of things, going to Miami, transferring, playing another year, given everything that's going on in the situation he has, thank God he did this. Like, for real. I'm very happy that he did this because this is a huge decision for him, for his family, going forward in his life, because the benefits he's going to get going to Miami versus going and being a late round draft pick and who knows what happens, substantial difference. So, very excited to see what Cam Ward does. I'm happy for him, and I think it was the right decision. So, you got anything else you want to add on that?
Yeah, just like kind of adding on to like, you don't think that he'll be like a starter in the NFL. And I tend to agree with you to an extent. And here's why I say to an extent, because from what he's put on film, yeah, he's not really an NFL starter right now. However, if he's the type of guy where like this offseason, he's able to really step up his arm. Like he's got good arm strength. He's got mobility. Like he's got the raw tools that you need to be a successful quarterback in today's game and in today's NFL. Because I mean, he's the prototype of what people are looking for. Somebody who can throw the ball, throw it well, and run. Is mobile. Um, so if he makes some improvements this offseason and he's a more accurate thrower, and elevates his game with the elevated talent of the school, that's a guy that absolutely maybe this time next year we're saying, hey, listen, last year we were kind of hesitant. This year, this guy put this on film that we didn't see before. He put this on film that we didn't see before. Like, he added a whole nother element to his game. He developed his game. It's a guy that I don't think it would be ridiculous for us to say next year around this time, Cam Ward's got a shot at, a top 5 pick. Like, it's not crazy to say that because when you look at the raw potential that is there, it's there. It's just how is he going to develop that talent? Because there's a possibility where, like you said, he flops at Miami, it ends up terribly, and he ends up being undrafted, right? Like there's a possibility of that. But I think that between the NIL money he's gonna make being the Miami quarterback, and between just kind of like everything else around it with like playing at a big school and being a Miami legend, like if he can get them into the 12-team playoff, and let's say they win a playoff game, right? That could be huge for him, again, it's hard to say what he's going to be because there's still so much that he can put on the film.
Yep.
And that's what makes this a great decision is today, is he an NFL starter, and would any NFL team commit to him to be their starter? No. But he's got the potential, in my eyes, to potentially be one.
Well, and another thing, too, and the last thing I'll say is environment is so much bigger than what people will say it is. Like, and I'm not saying this to be a hater. Like, I'm really not. This is my genuine opinion. J.J. McCarthy is going to get somebody fired. Like, there will be an NFL GM and head coaches fired because of J.J. McCarthy. Like, he is a product of his environment. He's a product of a good run game, a good team. I don't think he offers that much. I don't think he's special in any way. Like, and this is not just me saying this. I've seen multiple people say this. But, for Cam Ward, not saying he's going to be that, but at the very least, you take a guy like J.J. McCarthy, who was a solid college quarterback. Like, obviously the team didn't win because of him, but he was solid enough and he was at the right place. Like, that team around him elevated him and elevated his draft stock. And he's going to benefit greatly because of that. Some team's going to either J.J. McCarthy's going to be like a mid-first round pick or he's going to tank. And I think he's going to get picked high, for a couple different reasons. But my point in saying that is him being in that environment got him to that level. If J.J. McCarthy is on, like Auburn, is he a top 10, top 15 draft pick? No, absolutely not. So and I'm not saying Cam Ward is JJ McCarthy, but what I'm saying is even if you're not really that great, and that's just my opinion, you can benefit from your environment. And him going to a bigger school with a lot of pride and a lot of history, and a place that they want to get back to what they were, it's a great decision. But that's the last thing I wanted to say. And yes, I hate JJ McCarthy, but I am being honest. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And, I'm sure that we'll have a deeper discussion on all the NFL, the draft quarterbacks available in the draft later into the off season. Because that's certainly something I want to study up on a bit more myself as well. But